Very good. It's 1:30, so we will convene the Liquor Control Board for the third time in 3 days. So I've already apologized to all of our members. We appreciate, they're all volunteers, so we appreciate their efforts, and they've all had perfect attendance. I just wanted to say a word of that we're thinking about our fifth member. He's not here. He's having some health issues, so we're thinking about him, and hopefully he'll recover soon and join us, and we're all thinking about him. So with that, we'll try to make this as quick as possible for the benefit of our members on our board. But we have 4 items on the agenda. Agenda item number 1 is to approve minutes of the November 17th, 2021 regular meeting and the December 13th, 2021 special meeting. And if you've had a chance to review them, or if there's any changes or corrections, we'd be happy to hear that. Otherwise, we will accept a motion.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 2A, application for the issuance of a Class F alcoholic beverage license to BPC Fargo LLC, doing business as Boss's Pizza and Chicken, to be located at 228 Broadway. Steve.
Well, good evening, good afternoon, board members. I do appreciate your attendance also. We've had a kind of a busy week this week, and I'm sure you probably weren't anticipating all of that when you volunteered to be on this board. And again, I'll publicly apologize for not having lunch for you last time we met. So we do have an application. This is for Boss's Pizza. It'll be located on Broadway, and it's for a Class F alcoholic beverage license. So the F license is full alcohol, but it's table service, and there's no bar allowed or anything like that. And then the food sales must exceed the alcohol sales. I know we have Jeremy Siebold, the applicant, that is going to join us on the telephone, and there he is. So he didn't want to have to drive up with the weather turning and everything. Chief has some comments to make on the application, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Board. As noted in the application, in reviewing the background specifically to the manager, I'm recommending denial based on a pattern of drug usage and convictions that came up in the background investigation. The last 2 of which, the most recent one was 9 months ago. Conviction for possession of marijuana drug paraphernalia in Grand Forks. During that time, she was actually employed as a general manager for the same business in Grand Forks. And in 2019, same charge in Sioux Falls, when she was also working in Sioux Falls at the same business. And then there's some prior drug activity as well in the background investigation. But certainly this is close time proximity. There is a strong nexus to narcotics and the operations of a licensed liquor establishment. And so that's the basis for my recommendation, at least in terms of that individual. I don't have any issue with the owner.
Thank you, Chief. And so maybe I can ask a question for Steve. So then, Chief, or both of you actually, but so the owner is fine, but it's just the current who they have proposed as managing is what's causing so what are the owner's options, Steve?
Well, I know the owner wants to make some statements, and Lisa, the proposed manager, is also here, and she would like to address the committee also. The other option is for the owner to name a different person to be a manager, and he does have somebody else that he could name, but he has reasons that he would like to promote Lisa into this operation. So.
Okay, and so Lisa, if you want to come up and make, and then in the meantime, Jeremy, you're online. If you want to speak first, that'd be great, and then we'll have Lisa speak after you. So go ahead. We can see you and hear you.
You bet. Thank you for the opportunity to talk today. It's come to my attention prior that the officer in charge of recommending us or not recommending us for a liquor license has some issues with the liquor manager that I named for this location, Lisa Knoll. While I can understand someone that doesn't know her very well being concerned about someone with her background, I do want to say a few things about Lisa. When my company first hired Lisa as a delivery driver back in 2014 in Lincoln, Nebraska, she was a full-on meth addict and had been for 15 plus years. We obviously didn't know that when we hired her, but came to realize it both by her behaviors and when we caught her stealing and terminated her employment. Several months later, the manager of the store in Lincoln called me and told me that Lisa had come back and apologized, paid the small amount that she stole back, and explained she was now sober and would really appreciate another chance. We were struggling for staff at that point, and even though I was extremely pessimistic about this employee that I barely knew actually being sober and not being a threat to steal again, I'm a big believer in second chances, and I told the general manager that he could give her another shot, but he needed to watch her closely. A few months after that, that particular general manager actually had an assistant manager job open up. He came to me and said that he actually thought Lisa might be the right person for that job. She was sober, and she was an absolutely fantastic employee. She'd help out whenever necessary, and she was extremely knowledgeable. He said that she was a completely different person since she'd been sober. I trusted this general manager, and so I reluctantly agreed to make her the new assistant manager at that location. I drove to that store for a manager meeting once every 2 weeks, so over the course of the next year or so, I really got to know Lisa from the meetings. She was incredibly observant, knew how to solve problems, and it became apparent to me that the staff respected and listened to her and worked for her and had loyalty to her. That store during that time became the best store in my company in a lot of metrics, including sales per hour and food and labor costs. I gave a lot of credit to the general manager, Mike, at that time because he'd worked for me for a long time and I trusted him, but I also thought Lisa was a big part of it. So when the general manager job opened at my Sioux Falls location on the west side of Sioux Falls, which was currently a problem store at the time, I offered the job to Lisa if she was willing to move to Sioux Falls. Despite living her entire life in the Lincoln area, she was excited for the opportunity and agreed to move to Sioux Falls. She was still clean, she was proving who she could be as a sober person, and she was getting the opportunity to run her own store. I signed a lease for her in a place in Sioux Falls because she couldn't get one on her own, and she moved up north. Well, two things happened. Over the course of the next 9 months, Lisa turned the worst store in the company to the best store in the company in terms of food costs, labor costs, sales per hour, and customer service rating. And the Lincoln store fell to the absolute bottom of the standings of all my stores. Lisa's management style was incredible, and her talent was something I just don't find very often running this business. When you own a restaurant, specifically a pizza place, very often what you find in this business is that your most talented people have baggage, because if they didn't have baggage, they'd be a president of a bank or own their own business or have already moved their way up a corporate ladder of a much bigger business than a pizza place that can pay them more than I can. Lisa was the epitome of this. She was as talented of a manager as I'd ever had, and her baggage was that she was a recovering meth addict. I've seen my fair share of meth addicts both in the news and I've worked at my locations over the years, and meth addicts never recover for good, or so it seemed. But Lisa had the most talent and most baggage of anyone that ever worked for me. She never stumbled, her life had changed, and she didn't want to go back to it. Her relationship with her daughter was better. She wasn't making much headway on the massive medical bills that she owed, but she always had a little money and didn't ever have to worry about where she was living or if she'd go hungry. She was finally comfortable, she was happy, and meth had no part in that, and she never wanted it again. In December of 2019, I needed to replace the operations manager that I had placed in the Grand Forks location, so I terminated him and needed to find someone I trusted to run that location. My first call was Lisa. To say that was a good decision would be a major understatement. Lisa moved into a hotel room in the Baymont Inn, which is where the pizza place is located, across from the Alaris Center, so she could stay on top of the business at all times and be able to run the store and help at any time. She still lives in that hotel, so she can be 30 seconds away to come help at any given time. During Lisa's tenure as an operating partner there, that store has become the standard by which all of our other bosses' stores are judged by. They are number one in every single category we track, including sales, food cost, labor cost, customer service ratings, phone call score ratings, and employee turnover rate. Lisa has built a culture of accountability that also motivates all managers and employees to look at the business as something that is personally important to them. She has not had a manager quit that location. She has developed several managers that I have used to help train or manage at other stores when I need them. She has done such a good job of what she has built that I'll often have her come work at other stores in my company for weeks at a time to help develop my new managers and help them see the things that we're doing in Grand Forks that are working. And her Grand Forks location doesn't miss a beat while she's gone because of what she's built. I should mention that the Grand Forks location and the Lincoln location both have beer and wine licenses, and we've never had trouble at either location in any of that time that Lisa has worked there, or any other time for that matter. For what it's worth, Lisa has dug herself almost completely out of that debt that I guarantee you 3 years ago that she would have told you she would never be able to pay back. She actually did tell me that. She has used some of her earnings to buy a larger percentage of the business for herself in Grand Forks. To say that she's an incredible success story would be a major understatement. Lisa is the best employee and manager I've ever had in my company in 17 years, and she's a little ways ahead of a couple others that are great stories as well. I'm not just saying that because of these proceedings. You can ask any of my friends, my wife, or other people near the top of my company, as they'd say they'd heard me say that, or they would say the same thing. Lisa's talent and ability is a big part of why I think this location in Fargo, especially with where it's located and the potential of Fargo, will be the crown jewel of all of our boss's stores. I know Lisa will find and develop people to be great employees and managers. I know that they'll become loyal to Lisa and respect her as a manager and be appreciative of how much she cares about them as people and employees. I know that she'll find a way to manage an incredibly busy business and come up with ideas that help us handle that and still maintain great service. And without a shadow of a doubt, I know that she would be the best person to make sure we never do anything to put our liquor license at risk or do anything non-compliant that would put our customers or ourselves at risk. I also know that her relationship with her staff will ensure that they care about that as well. If you'd like, I can put someone else's name on the liquor manager license. At least 2 of the employees that Lisa has developed into amazing assistant managers in Grand Forks will be moving to Fargo to help with this store. We need a liquor license to be competitive with the other pizza places downtown, and I'll do whatever you need me to do to make sure I have someone on the liquor license paperwork that is a manager that you are comfortable with. But I can assure you, whoever's name is on that piece of paper, no one will be more concerned about it and make sure we don't do anything to screw it up than Lisa. We take these things very seriously. I run 2 bars with liquor in Sioux Falls and Rapid City currently, and all but 2 of my locations have at least a beer license. I have had Lisa and the other person that we're going to make the general manager of this Fargo location training at both of those bars within the last 3 months to ensure that they know the policies and procedures of specifically running a liquor license responsibly. Liquor is not going to be our big money maker, but someone being able to get a drink at my location will certainly make it more likely that they'll stop in for some food. Lisa will be living in an apartment above the location so she can be there for anything that comes up. And Cody Jevney, the person we are hiring as GM, will live in an apartment up there as well. We will not do anything to put that license in jeopardy, I can assure you. Thank you for your time, and sorry my comments took so long.
No, that's great. Thank you, Jeremy. And so with that, Lisa, we'll let you go ahead and make your comments if you wish.
Thank you. I don't have anything prepared, so bear with me. I'm very emotional, so I will probably cry. I'm Lisa. I was a meth addict for 20 years. I have been clean for 5 years and 13 days off meth. I understand officers' recommendation. I do completely understand a drug is a drug is a drug. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that I have never smoked pot again or will never smoke pot, but I do not smoke on a regular basis. I don't seek out marijuana. I don't smoke daily. I don't smoke weekly, even at that. It was in my car when I got pulled over because I don't want to disrespect the hotel, and I don't smoke in the hotel, right? I had paraphernalia in my car, and that's what I got arrested for. That was 9 months ago. I have probably smoked 4 times since then. My entire life is divulged into Boss Pizza and Chicken. I had the opportunity to move forward and create a life for myself that, not given this opportunity, who knows where I would be today. So, like I said, I don't have anything completely prepared. Never would I do anything to jeopardize the liquor license. I had the beer and wine license in my name in Lincoln, Nebraska. It was momentarily in Sioux City when there was a store there, and I'm the manager on the license in Grand Forks now, so. I just thank you for your time and appreciate.
And thank you for your comments and thank you for your honesty. And it's kind of ironic because our last liquor license, we actually had somebody that kind of gave a similar testimony. Obviously, it was a ways away from when that happened. But I guess from my perspective, and if anybody has any questions, feel free. But I guess to me, what I would like to see is to have us. We also have to worry about being consistent with all of our other liquor license holders. And so to me, the option, if possible, where Jeremy said there's another option as far as the manager, you can still work there. But to me, I guess that, I don't know if that would be sufficient for you, Chief, but from my perspective, I think it's a good business and I think she's an honest person, but I think from our perspective, we have to also follow the rules and we want to set a precedent. So I don't want to put you on the spot, Chief, but would you be comfortable with that if we made that recommendation?
Yeah, I think that would be fair enough. I think not having her in that management role would allow her to do her work and go from there and have someone else in charge of operations that we would
And
go
so
through the same
Steve,
vetting.
so Steve, can I ask, so will they have to do a background check then for the next person? So Jeremy, if you wouldn't mind contacting the city, they have not done that at this point, correct?
They have not. I will get Jeremy the forms we need filled out, and if we can get them back quick enough, maybe we can still meet the January, I think, 10th is when this goes to city commission
Okay.
date. So we have a little less than a month to get that done.
So I don't want to speak for everybody else on the commission, but obviously we wish you well. But on the flip side, we have to be consistent with what we do, and I'm sure you understand that. This doesn't prohibit you from working there, and maybe as time goes by, that might be something that we would approve. But I think for now, that just wouldn't be a good step. So I don't know if anybody has any other comments or questions.
I have comments unrelated to ownership management. And I've been thinking a lot about what our vision is for downtown. And the decisions that we make will determine the future of our downtown. And we were presented this summer with a compelling list of liquor establishments and the saturation rates of which downtown Fargo was just one solid blob of color. And it disturbs me that we're not taking that into account, and it's like we just shelved that important document that they presented us with. And I think we really have to ask ourselves, what are we willing to allow to happen in our downtown? I personally don't think I can vote in favor of another liquor license approval until we come up with some sort of a matrix. We sit down and we talk about what liquor establishments are we willing to allow downtown and where, so that we aren't endangering our citizenry. This is a neighborhood. We've got more neighbors who are going to be moving in based on all of the apartments that are being built. And so I think that we really need to take a look at what we're allowing to happen. I am all for businesses being successful, and I will do and work with you however I can. But I really think that we need to be cognizant of what we're allowing to be happening downtown.
Any other comments or questions?
My comment is that, if, I think it sounds like, Lisa, that you've made great strides. You've made yourself pretty invaluable to this business. I'd also point out that the MJ marijuana laws are different here than they are in South Dakota. And, yes, you received an infraction here. I wonder if that's kind of due to the temporary residence situation, if it's related to that. I would vote in support of you being on this application. For that reason, I think recovering addicts really need to have an avenue to making a good living.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
I guess my question is, when it comes to these kind of violations, I should know the rules better, but what are the rules as it relates to these types of criminal infractions? I know later than 5 years, it's less important, the types of infractions. I think it's drug and alcohol, but maybe refresh us on the rules.
Sure. In terms of the narcotics, it's within 2 years, 2 or more instances. And actually, one of her instances was in South Dakota. She got stopped there as well for the same violation. And in the Grand Forks case, she did have marijuana with her. The officer just didn't charge her for the marijuana and only charged her for the paraphernalia. That was 9 months ago. So that, based on the pattern of other drug uses, which she's already talked about, creates a strong question for me about her ability to manage a tavern, because I can tell you from my experience as well, that is where people go to buy and sell drugs. And if you have someone who is operating it who is addicted, using drugs, marijuana is a narcotic, you open yourselves up to that potential. And I'm not saying that she would do that, but I'm saying that that happens quite often. And from my perspective, I can't recommend approval based on that. Certainly the board can do whatever it wishes.
Any other comments or questions?
My only kind of clarification on this would be if an applicant had, a medical license.
This is
I
not
know that-
medical marijuana.
I realize this is not
Yeah.
that situation.
That'd be different.
And that's why I mentioned
Perhaps,
the
yeah.
temporary living situation, was it possible? I understand. I'm like thinking for the future, how we categorize it here, that, there may have been limitations on. I understand. I know, I realize that I'm kind of reaching out, but just putting that out there.
Any other comments or questions? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we move forward to approving the license contingent upon reviewing an applicant of a new manager candidate.
Do we have a second? Nancy, is it okay if I make the second? I believe it is, but I stand to be corrected.
It's fine, yeah. There isn't any restrictions on doing that at this
Then I'll
point.
make the second for the sake of discussion. So are there any further discussion? Are we ready for a vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
So it's tied 2-2. Nancy, now what do we do?
So I guess I would ask for clarification. Does that mean that you are making the motion to deny the present application as it is presented? Because that, of course, could be appealed then or request for review at the city commission level. And if that is not approved, then they could come back with a new manager application. Either that, or at this time, the applicant could withdraw, which would resolve that issue as well. So I guess if it's a 2-2, it would likely be a denial of this pending application, is the way I would view that. It's not entirely clear.
But the other way this could proceed is this could go to the city commission and say that it was a 2-2 vote and let the city commission vote on it. I think that's the option, unless am I interpreting that wrong?
Well, I think a 2-2 vote means that it's not approved. So that's.
But that doesn't mean that it can't go to the city commission.
Absolutely not, right.
So to me, what this is just, in whatever the group prefers, but this could proceed to the city commission saying that we tied it 2-2, and then that's it, unless you would prefer to have it go a different direction.
I think I would be willing to I think Kay and I are voting nay for different reasons. So if we wanted to, I think at this point depends on the applicant. I'd be willing to vote yes on your your motion if that's what the applicants prefer.
Can I just throw out, if this is okay, the other option is we can continue this matter to our next meeting. Then hopefully Robert will be here. And then by then, if we had the other option of having this other background check completed, that would give those options, unless you don't want to do that. So I'm just throwing it out there, and correct me if I'm wrong. Could we do that, Steve?
Certainly, we could do that. I just would like to ask Jeremy how that affects his business operations when they're planning on opening. Our next meeting wouldn't be until the third Wednesday of January. How would that affect your opening, Jeremy?
We don't get your sound, so you might have been
You
muted.
might have muted yourself, yeah.
Sorry about that. I think we'll be, I think we won't be open till at least February 1st. We've just had a lot of stuff hold us up with building permits and stuff like that. So I think delaying it till the end of January or whatever would be fine with us.
So that is a viable option. If we as a group want to do that, we can too. So I think whatever we decide as a group.
And that would do two things. It would allow Bob the chance to participate in this. And if Jeremy so chose, he could submit another person, that we could do the background check on, and then we could have further discussion, so.
I'd make a motion, we table this application until special meeting in January.
So we have a motion. I'm sorry. We have a motion. Do you have a second for that?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that?
Just clarification, it would just be at our regular meeting in January?
Oh,
Right.
okay.
Yep, so,
We've had enough special meetings
Right.
for the rest of this year, Steve.
this year at least, yeah.
January is a new year. Let's kick it off right.
Okay, so any further discussion? So we have a motion and a second, basically to carry this forward to the next meeting. Any further discussion? We're ready to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Very good. Thank you very much. And so we'll address this again the next time. Thank you, everybody, for the
Thank
good
you.
discussion. Now we will move on to number 3, a review report from Brady Martz regarding annual liquor audits. Steve.
Yes, so every year we reach out to an independent auditor to, to verify that we usually audit around 30 to 35 of our licensees to make sure that they're in compliance with our recommendations. And so everybody gets audited once every 3 years. On top of that, they're self-reporting at renewal time what their sales are. So, and with this last one, we were made aware a couple of years ago that even though, so we look at all of the licenses that require food sales, but if a business is allowing, like a Class A license that doesn't have to have food sales, is allowing minors to be in their facility unattended, then they also have to meet the food sales requirements. And so this year we reached out to about 6 of those that self-reported that they had that they are allowing minors in. And we had one that was confused about our question of whether or not they were allowing unaccompanied minors in. And so that one was kind of identified as the one that said that I told them that they didn't have to. When I reached out to that company, they said, I didn't understand the question. So that being said, 31 of the 32 licenses complied. They checked with 32. And the one that had checked differently, then, we really shouldn't have been checking that one. They checked that they allow unaccompanied minors, but what he meant was we only allow minors that are accompanied. So just a little bit of a miscommunication. Anyway, the good news, sorry about all that rambling. The good news is that everybody passed and we don't have any violations this year. So any questions on that?
And so if anybody in the group wanted to see specific information, could we request that too?
Absolutely. If there's
Okay.
one certain restaurant that you wanted to see or something like that, we can request the information from the auditors and they will provide it to us.
Thank you very much. So if there's anyone specifically that anybody here wants to see, or if they wanted to come in and review them all, we could set up a time for that.
We can certainly do that. Yep.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Thank you very much for doing that. I think that's a great thing to do, and I'm glad we do that. Okay, and then if that's okay, we'll move on. Our last item on the agenda is the Police Department monthly report, the general report, Chief.
Thank you. I don't have anything specific to point out unless the board has questions.
And yesterday I thanked you for that. I really appreciate this is a new thing that you've implemented. Thank you very much for doing that. Some of our other city commissioners were interested possibly in getting the report, so thank you for making that available. And I just think it's a great thing for all of us, so thank you on behalf of all of us. I don't know if there's any other comments or questions.
Yeah, I just have one comment for the chief. I happened to make your report. I was down at Cowboy Jack's and ran into a couple of your police officers on Broadway, shook their hands and thanked them for their service. Then I walked into there to meet my wife and friends, and there was a lady in there who had been overserved, so I went back out and grabbed him. And I really appreciate seeing him downtown. It's great to see him walk through the bars. And, you know, one of our big concerns, I think we talked about yesterday, was safety. And that's part of the establishment's duty and obviously part of your team's duty. And so good to see you down there.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. We've been really trying hard to increase presence down there.
I'm still kind of trying to get a grasp on frequencies here, looking for like red flags, where are we seeing spikes and stuff? And it seemed to me like there were a lot of fights. You know, do you think this was a slightly higher frequency than usual, or any red flags here?
You know, it seems about the same. However, we are moving to some new technology that we just started rolling out this week. It's going to help us with a lot of different types of analysis, and this will be one of them. So these forms will become part of the new electronic, that's called SmartForce, is the database that we're using. So everything will be sortable by date, by venue, so we can really start to look at these and start to analyze. I think there are some obvious trends in terms of there's some places we go to, whether it's inside the bar or outside the bar, and the common theme is someone's been overserved, which is a very tough issue to enforce, prove, etc. And so we've got some things to think about there. There's a couple of bouncer issues that have come up again, where we have in the last month's report a bouncer being referred for a simple assault. And as we mentioned yesterday about the video, a situation where we're trying to get video to ascertain if a bouncer did something wrong, and then the video was erased. So, you know, that was the end of that. So, I mean, those kinds of things, I think as we progress here, we'll have better analysis and some better insights.
Very good.
I want to tag on to that a little bit too. And after yesterday's brown bag, I wondered how we move forward with that. I know you talked about, Nancy and Steve, about little bits at a time, but there are 3 areas that I would like to move forward on personally, or from my opinion. And so how do you want us to do that? Do we contact the 3 of you? Or give you our ideas? Do we have another meeting? Do we bring it up at a meeting? Or what's the process going forward?
I'm calling a friend.
And I think that's a good question. I don't know. I think that is up to the board, how you'd like to proceed. If it's a motion to have one of the ordinances changed and then have that discussion about what that change looks like. Again, I think we were looking for, here's some thoughts and ideas, but really nothing set in stone. And so I do think if there is interest in the board of moving that forward, that would be something that would be a motion from the board and then up to city commission with a direction back to me to be addressing ordinance changes. And that might require further discussion.
Okay.
So.
Okay, thank you. And then another thing I wanted to bring up too is that regarding the images that we're capturing on the body cameras and on the cameras in the facilities where we've got fights and parking lot issues. And personally, I'd like to have another brown bag and invite some of the establishment owners, the bar owners, and sit down and problem solve this. What needs to happen? What can we do as a liquor control board to facilitate what their needs are to ensure safety? I'm particularly concerned about the bar fights getting pushed outside where it's not inside the facility anymore, and what happens out there. So I need a better understanding going forward of what the issues are, why this is happening, and what perspectives our bar owners might have to help us move forward and work on this.
Sure.
So I don't know how we set that up, what that looks like, but I would like for that to happen.
Well, I think the board can do that if they want to do something of that nature. Now, we have, we did our downtown download meeting a week or 2 ago, and we met with bar owners in the particular kind of really busy closing area, and actually we're in the midst with their input and support of creating some Uber taxi pickup zones that are away from those to help disperse people, at least at closing, because that's one of the issues. You know, the issue of the fights in the bars and the fights in general, I think that's probably there's a broad amount of things that cause that, from some people don't do well drinking and or things happen, there's conflicts. One thing that we, as we mentioned yesterday is, could there be something for the bouncers to help them from a training perspective? And public health may have that to help them at least de-escalate and or, call us sooner for those things if they start to get in that situation. So we don't push out an active fight into the street and someone else gets hit or injured. So, I mean, we're on our own volition now really trying to do that with the presence that you see down there and the cops on foot and the assistance that we get from Cass County on the weekends. So we're trying to come up with innovative ways to keep doing that.
Thank you.
Sure.
Very good. Very good comments. Thank everybody. And once again, thank you for all your attendance this week. And I think we're going in a good direction. Thank you for everybody for attending. And it's 2:06 and we are adjourned.